Hello to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. So today's video is a wrap-up for the month of March. I have talked about some of these books already in previous videos, or I will be talking about them more extensively in later videos. For instance, one of the books that I read this last month was Speak by Laurie Halsey Anderson. This is the first time I'm talking about it on my channel, but I do intend to talk about it at length in its own separate video, probably with a couple of other banned books. I want to talk about like the importance that these books serve in our community and in our personal lives, and why it's important that they not be banned, and why it's important for them to be accessible. So I will be covering Speak along with some other banned books in another video in probably the next month or two. And that does go towards my bingo board, the space for the 12 banned books that I am reading. And then the next book that I want to talk about is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is the book that the scavenger hunt picked for me in my previous video. I'll either put it in the iCards or link it below. But I did end up reading this, and I think this was the last book I read before the Trans Rights Readathon started. I really enjoyed my read of this. I did do a vlog for this book, but I kind of deleted the video files, so whoops. This was a fantastic book. I really think that this solidified for me the fact that Leigh Bardugo has a very definite style of writing duologies. Although I don't think this is a duology, the way that it was ended. I think there is room for a third book at least, if not more. I'll have to look that up and see if it's a thing. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. It is much faster paced than the first book, Ninth House. And Alex Stern, I freaking love Alex Stern. I really hope this isn't a duology, because I need to know what happens next. Like, I appreciate that all of the loose ends were wrapped up in this, but it definitely set things up for an ongoing series. I gave this 4.5 stars. I'm not sure quite why it's not a 5-star. I think it was just missing one little oomph. Like, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it, but I wasn't like completely just enthralled or ensnared in the narrative. I consistently wanted to read this, and I probably will reread this. 4.5 stars is amazing. I loved it. This was one of my favorite reads of the month. And the first two books that I read this month were actually a 2-volume manga called I'm Kinda Chunky and I'm Your Hero by Noor. And that one, I gave both volumes 3 stars. It was very sweet. I really enjoyed it. I could see myself possibly rereading it if I just want like a quick, sweet read. But it's not going to be like an absolute favorite. If they had been just a little bit more explicitly clear that this was a queer story, but there wasn't a single instance of hand-holding, kissing, I love yous in a clear romantic way, and I found that frustrating. I understand that this is a frequent theme in many manga because of the stigma that still exists around queer relationships, but I did find that regardless, frustrating. And so I can't give this more than 3 stars for the series. But it was very cute, and it definitely made me want pastries. I thought that the main characters were adorable, and really, I just wanted just a little bit more to make this like a favorite short series. I love that it's only 2 volumes, and I really do love how adorable these characters were. I just wanted a little bit more. And then the next thing that I read was also a 3-star, and that was Make Me by Summer O'Toole. It's the first book in the Fox Family Crime Syndicate series. It is a KU book. I am not sure that mafia books are for me. I was absolutely delighted with the fact that this was a girl who was stalking a crime boss because she thought that he killed her best friend, and she wanted to get him on it. So she's stalking him. He notices immediately that she's stalking him because she does it real poorly. She's not terribly sneaky. So our main character is not terribly sneaky. She is a little bit unhinged. Admittedly, like, understandably so. If you were attacked with your best friend and saw her murder, like saw bits and pieces of her murder, and were unable to help her, you would be a little unhinged too, I think. I certainly would. So she proceeds to stalk this mob boss. He notices immediately and becomes obsessed with her. And then things get messy. He makes it easier for her to stalk him. Like, he notices she doesn't have a car, so he starts walking places more. He has one of his businesses put up a help wanted sign so that she can come waitress for him and work for him. And then he immediately is inappropriate with her. Like, immediately. But, you know, he's a crime boss. He doesn't necessarily care about, you know, appropriateness. Yeah, it gets really messy. And it was a fun read, but I don't know that I will be continuing the series. And I don't think that mafia romance is it for me. But I'm glad I picked it up, and I'm glad I read it. And earlier this month, I also read Out There Screaming. It is a horror anthology by multiple authors. It was edited by, and the introduction was written by, Jordan Peele. And these horror stories most definitely fit within what I think of as like Jordan Peele style horrors. There were, I think 19 short stories in total, and there were 5 that absolutely gripped me. My 2 favorites that were favorites because they were fun reads and they really pulled me in were Eye and Tooth by Rebecca Roanhorse and A Bird Sings by the Etching Tree by Nicole D. Sconiers. And the 2 that were favorites because of how disturbing they were Flicker by L.D. Lewis, which, can I just say, that's just absolute nightmare fuel. But like in the best way. And then Hide and Seek by Chesia Burke. Oh my god. Like, this trauma, the childhood trauma was maybe a little too real for me. Because we had a parentified child, we had an abusive parent and a dark secret. But I'll leave it at that. Again, it's a short story. I don't want to spoil anything. And then one that just really stuck with me was An American Fable. Oh, I said that wrong. So Hide and Seek was by P. Djeli Clark, and American Fable is by Cheshire Burke. And so An American Fable, the story starts in the horror of the reality of the Gilded Age, of being a Black person in the Gilded Age. And it dives into the uncanny and paranormal as things start taking off, like when things have escalated. And then I don't know how to talk about it because I want to talk about it, but I don't want to do the spoiler thing. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. It really stuck with me, and I really appreciated the structure of the story. I appreciated the way that the paranormal aspects were incorporated and used as a tool to move the story forward, and I liked where it led and where it was headed. I honestly would love to see a follow-up story to that, but it definitely stands on its own. The anthology on a whole was a 4.75 stars for me. The only thing that pulled it back is, honestly, I don't think I've given any anthology a full 5-star, because there's always going to be some stories that hit harder than others and some stories that just are kind of misses. Unfortunately, the story that was the biggest miss for me was the first one by M.K. Jemisin. It was about a police officer who was just really slimy and nasty, and I really just did not like being in his head. I thought that it was a very well-written short story. Thought it was a very well-written short story, but it was written by M.K. Jemisin. It couldn't be anything but excellent. But it just was so terribly unpleasant to be in this man's head that I really was just waiting for it to be over. So it was a rough start for me, but then it dove right into one of my favorites, which was Eye and Tooth by Rebecca Roanhorse, and that one is very Buffy the Vampire Slayer / supernatural kind of feel to it. I don't know, I really, really enjoyed it, and I would love to see a series built off of that that one story, off of those characters. I think it would be really intriguing to see an expanded view of their lives. So I definitely would say that the negative reviews that I've been seeing are from people who are expecting like a lot of in-your-face horror, whereas these are much more cultural, experienced horror with a supernatural element. And so it's a quieter kind of horror mostly. So if you want something that is just going to have you absolutely terrified the whole time you're reading it, this probably isn't the anthology for you. But if you want something that is very poignant and very much going to creep into the extra spaces of your brain and stick with you, then I think this would be a great anthology for you to explore. Plus, it gives you an opportunity to sample several authors that you maybe have not heard of before or haven't had the chance to read anything from before. I know that I definitely found some new authors that I'm going to be digging into more now that I have read these short stories. I I just really loved this. Okay, time to switch gears a bit. The next book that I read after that was a contemporary romance. It was by DJ Jameson, which if you are familiar with my channel, you know DJ Jameson is one of my go-to soft, cozy romance reads. This is their most recent release, Sexless in Seattle. I can't remember what the series is called, but it's the first in their new series, and it's like a remake of Sleepless in Seattle, if the title didn't give that away. And I think that the whole series is going to be kind of like retellings of classic rom-coms. I definitely enjoyed it. I gave this one 3.5 stars, and I can't wait to see what comes next in the series. And then within the same vein of a soft kind of rom-com-y feel, I read the first volume in a manga series called Love and Focus. I picked this series up because it was recommended by Izzy over at Happy for Now, and I have to say I was very kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. The main character is ridiculous. It made me laugh hysterically, and the two love interests are interesting. One's terribly crabby and one is extremely sweet, but I kind of feel like things are a little bit opposite when they are not in the presence of the main character. I've really only seen hints so far. There's still 2 more volumes in this series to read, and I will probably be reading those later this month. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of excited to pick this series back up. And then the rest of the books that I read for the month of March were for the Trans Rights Readathon. I started the readathon with Most Ardently by Gabe Kolnavoa. It is a remixed classic, and I didn't realize this until after I had read this book and was putting it into my spreadsheet, but apparently this is a series called Remix Classics, and this is the 9th book in the series, but it's not like out of order in any way, because the whole series, each book in the series is written by a different author, and they're all, from what I can tell, classic stories retold in a queer perspective. And I think I will definitely be checking the rest of those books out, because this one was a delight, and I'm hoping that the rest are as well. I gave this 5 stars. It is definitely my favorite Pride and Prejudice retelling ever. I've read quite a few, and most of the time, for me, Pride and Prejudice retellings tend to fall a little flat, because I think a lot of the times authors who are doing a Pride and Prejudice retelling are trying to write their own story while also trying to hit all the character and plot beats of the original, and they just kind of tend to fall flat on one or the other or both. There are definitely some people who have managed, like in Most Ardently, to make an excellent retelling, but this one is hands down my favorite retelling, and this was my first book from this author, and I will definitely be checking them out. I know there are a lot of books in his backlist, and I really am excited to be able to dig into those. Admittedly, I have a lot of books on my plate, so I'm not sure when I'll get to them, but hopefully sooner than later. And then next up, I read 2 of the 3 books in the Gideon Testaments trilogy by Freydis Moon, and Oh my God. Okay, so I read this last year for the Trans Rights Readathon and I loved it. So I went ahead and picked up the other 2 books in the series, and I reread this for the Trans Rights Readathon this year and read this, and now I have the 3rd book left to read, Saint Sorrow Sinner, and holy Hannah. Okay, so this is my prediction, so this was my experience of this trilogy so far. I absolutely fucking love this. I gave it 5 stars last year. I gave it 5 stars on the reread. Absolutely loved Heart Hunt Havoc. Now, the 2nd book, Willow Witch, features the antagonist and a side character / kind of friend of the main characters from Heart Hunt Havoc. And I honestly, when I found out that the 2nd book was gonna feature Lincoln and Teller, I was unsure if I could get behind this story. Push comes to shove, I am giving this one 3.5 stars because I genuinely still dislike both of these characters, not just because they're unlikable, but like Lincoln is kind of irredeemable as far as I'm concerned, and some of Teller's actions have been pretty despicable, and not in that like delightful I love villains kind of way. Although I do understand why this is the 2nd book, because this book is leading directly to this book, and I am guessing that I'm gonna predict that this one's gonna be a 5 star for me. We get like a happy for now ending here. We get a okay for now ending here leading directly into this, as in the scene that this book ends in has to be the opening scene for this book, and if it's not, it's definitely going to be gone over in a flashback once this book takes off. But the characters, well, I'm guessing we'll meet her later, and that this is the character that we meet in this story, at the end of this story. I am expecting this to be really interesting, if not fantastic. So my prediction is 4 stars at the least, 5 stars more likely. And then that leaves us with the final book for the readathon that I read, which was Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko. And it is the 1st book in the Reaper series. The 2nd book just recently came out. I picked it up immediately after finishing Silver Under Nightfall. Oh my God. Do I love this book. I was obsessed from the beginning. I haven't been this obsessed with a fantasy book, let alone a fantasy series, in quite some time, and I am terribly excited for that to be the case here. Rin Chapeko is a non-binary Filipino author, and they have a very extensive backlist. I have quite a few of their books already in my library, but I haven't gotten around to them yet. I definitely have, after reading Silver Under Nightfall, stepped up their ranking in the books to get to in my TBR. So yeah, definitely be expecting some more Rin Chapeko reads from me in the coming videos. I absolutely freaking loved this. It is a polyamorous high fantasy story that is it gives very Castlevania feels to it, but where the main characters are all in a throuple as opposed to a couple and their friend. which I don't know about you, but when I watched Castlevania, all I wanted was for them to be a throuple. Like, they needed to be a throuple. They really, really did. And this book is that. Absolutely. You have your vampires, and they are engaged, they are nobles, and then you have your vampire hunter. So we are quite literally enemies to lovers, as opposed to, you know, the lukewarm supposed enemies to lovers we usually get, which is like maybe rivals to lovers, competitors to lovers, I didn't like your face for a moment to lovers. But this is straight up enemies to lovers, as in when the two guys first meet, they literally meet having a fight. They literally cross swords from the start. And then they cross swords later on in a different kind of way. And the lady in the equation is absolutely delightful. I love her. She is a wonderful mix of sunshine and rage monster. And that does it for me. I don't know what to tell you. She's fantastic. And oh my god, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I loved this story. It has all of the world building and all of the plot that you would want from a fantasy, but then it has all of the romance and tension that you could want. It's definitely something that I would put in more of a slow burn realm for the romance aspect of it. But I'm guessing by the time we get into our second book, well, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more heat. I could be wrong, but I think there's probably going to be a bit more heat. I will definitely be picking the second book up sometime soon, hopefully this month. But as we have established in past videos, I am in fact a chaos gremlin, and I cannot predict for sure what I'll be reading and when I'll be reading it. But I'm hoping sometime this month or next, I will be getting to the second book in the series. On the back of having called myself a chaos gremlin when it comes to TBRs, I did want to go over the couple of things that I do know that I will be reading for the month of April. For sure, I will be reading The Changeling Sea by Patricia McKillip. This is going to be the first book club read that my book club has done since, I want to say, 2021. So it's been a long time coming. Maybe it was 2022. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look, but it's been 2 or 3 years. And I am super excited that we are taking another stab at the reading books together thing. This time we're doing the format a little bit differently, and hopefully it will be successful, because I miss reading with this particular group of folks. And I know that Patricia McKillip is an author that a lot of people grew up loving. I don't remember. I know I at least attempted to read something from her when I was in junior high or high school, but I don't recall having successfully read anything from her. But this is a middle grade fantasy book, and I am looking forward to seeing what I think about it. And then at the end of the readathon and through the end of March, I was reading The Feastmakers by H.A. Clark. This is the third book in the Scapegracers series, and it is just pure joy for me to read. I love, love, love Sideways Pike and Mr. Scratch and Jing and Daisy and Yates and Shiloh, and oh my god, do I love this series. I can't even tell you. Like, I just don't understand how come more people aren't talking about this series. The This was the third and final installment in the series. It just came out on the 26th of March. I picked it up. I pre-ordered it both in audio and in physical, and then I started reading it on the 27th, and I finished it earlier today. So definitely be expecting to see this in my wrap-up. I definitely will be doing a reread of the entire series. I would put this up there with the Murderbot Diaries for my favorites. Definitely like a top 3 favorite series. I really want to talk to people about this series. So if you have read The Scapegracers and any of the rest of the books in the series, please comment below or DM me on Instagram or wherever. And obviously I will be reading this month, probably this week, probably tonight or tomorrow, honestly, is when I'll start this one. And I will talk to you more about it later. All I have to say though is Freydis Moon can have all my money. Those 3 books are definitely happening. Those 3 books are definitely being read this month. Beyond that, I can't say for sure. I will probably be continuing to read down my trans rights readathon books, just because they're really good. Until then, I hope that you have a wonderful day, night, or whatever, and I will talk to you in the next video. Stars shining bright above me. Night breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer. Hello to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. Today's video has a guest star. This is Nyx. You've seen her in plenty of the footage, mostly the bloopers, or you've heard her in the background of the bloopers. But she has decided that she wants to be held, and I want to film. So we both get our wish today. Anyway, she is way too big for this. Yeah. And she's been very moody. Okay. You good? Can I put you down? Can I film for reals? Okay, good job. What a good guest star. Okay, let's start again from this. Hello, cat. Hi, how are you? Cat butt. Is this where you're going to live now, Cleo? Sir, what's wrong? By Nicole D. Sconiers? Oh, what was that show with the brothers? Stop. Why you cry at me? I need you to learn how to speak English. Yeah? Or Vulcan mind meld with me. Something. What he said. It is the 3rd book in the... Oh, well, tell me more. At the end of the month, I was still reading The Feast Makers by H.A. Clark.